All right, I have someone here today who needs no introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and give him one anyways. I got James Buckley, the host of Sell Better Daily Sales Show, a relentless advocate for modernizing sales without losing that human element. Man, from sales floors to SCOs, you've helped sellers just like rewire their thinking and like really adapt them to like a new reality. And so like, I love it that you're here today because we talk about the landscape is changing. Buyers are smarter. Sales cycles are longer. Tech isn't going away, especially AI. So, man, welcome to the show. Excited to dig into this with you today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Big fan of the mixology brand. I love where you're going with that. And, as a bartender, as somebody that's done the job for a long time, when I saw the mixology, I was like, oh, this guy gets it.
All right. So before we jump in, you gotta tell me your bartending days because I come from the same background. So
Yeah.
my mom used to own restaurants.
Okay.
I was a busboy server. I bartended in college. I managed a restaurant all through college.
Yes.
And
so I am a 15-year veteran of the restaurant industry. I've held every role there is to hold, from busboy to general manager. I've done the biggest chains in America, like Cracker Barrel, Chili's, Bennigan's. There's a lot of corporations, big corporations out there that I've been a small part of. On the server side, on the back of the house side, I spent most of my career in the back of the house cooking. But that was my career, was, serving people. And I think that lent itself to a great sales professional, because when you spend time in that industry, the fear of talking to strangers is bred out of you so quickly. And you really don't, what they think of you is not a factor in the conversation. So setting that aside and being able to talk to strangers when you get into something like software tech is almost second nature. Cold calling someone is the same as saying, hi, my name's James. I'll be your server today. Welcome to Applebee's. Can I start you off with a margarita, maybe some ultimate nachos? You can tell I've done that a time or two, right? People that do this job are often great salespeople because we give a shit about what someone that we don't know thinks about us until we get a little bit of interest. And then, hey, what about that margarita? That's going to take my average check value up and my tips go up, et cetera, et cetera. It's the same relationship. I probably went off on more of a tangent than you asked me for there.
No, I actually agree, man. Like, I laugh with a lot of people who have been in the industry. I'm like, I feel like everybody, like, I feel like it should be like a law that like when you turn 18, you have to at least work in the hospitality industry.
Oh, I don't think it should be 18. I think you should get in there as soon as possible. The reason I think it doesn't happen, though, especially now, is because if you think about like when we grow up and we're told not to talk to strangers, but then you become a salesperson and your job is to talk to strangers, right? So it's like against everything that we are when we're young, but also like it can be very daunting when you work in the general public because people as a whole are fairly rude. They're willing to be rude to strangers. But once you accept that, you recognize that this is just the general public. They're not actually rude people. We just put that label on them because they're the general public. I have had at Taco Bell, I had a woman ask me to remake her tacos because they were made incorrectly. I made them for her. She smiled. I handed them to her. And when I turned my back to walk away, she threw them at me. So like when you think about sales, sitting in an air-conditioned building, making phone calls, maybe you get up and play some ping pong once in a while, right? Like, it's not that bad, yo.
Dude, it's so true. And I'll even add to that. I've talked about this before, but like I did door-to-door B2B sales.
Yes.
Right.
What, were you B2B or door-to-door residential?
Door-to-door B2B.
I did B2B and residential.
I would walk into, I did residential. My residential, I sold newspaper subscriptions, did that for a long time as a kid. And then on the B2B side, it was quote unquote an internship in college. Won the scholarship, actually won like a $5,000 scholarship from it. Was the top earner. But to your point, it was like, hey, here's your territory. And like, do not miss a business. And I had to walk into businesses and try to convince them to buy printers, paper, copiers, like whatever it might be. Man, that's the same exact thing. Like that was my I'll probably say is like a scar. Maybe I grew from it a lot, but it's definitely a scar. I remember them loading me up on a bus, taking me out to Midland, Texas, out in the
Yes.
middle of nowhere, staying at some like, it was probably like a Texas Star motel or something like that. And then every morning the bus would drop me off at my spot and be like, cool, here's your territory. We'll pick you up
Canvas.
at 5 p.m. Just in the sweating heat all day, walking around trying to convince
Yep.
people to buy stuff. But I learned so much from it. I learned so much from actually like serving and from managing and dealing with people. And so I agree with you completely that it plays very much into the role that we live in today in the world of sales.
Yeah.
And so I want to kick things off a little bit with like how we even got here, right? Because today we're going to talk about the evolution of go to market. And so like in your view, what's changed in the role of, let's just talk about the seller first. What's
Yeah.
changed in the role of the seller?
Yeah, so I have been in the SaaS sales space since 2015. Prior to that, I was door-to-door, residential, B2B, and so on. I even had like stints of inbound with Caribbean cruise lines in Florida, where you'd have the headset on and it would boop, and you'd be like, "Hi, where are you going today? Thanks for calling Carnival," right? So like I've had a lot of different weird off experiences with sales in and out of the kitchens that I worked in. And one thing that's definitely changed, and I'm going to use a 10-year block here. If you go back to what personalization used to look like in 2014, if somebody used your name in an email, or if somebody actually like called you and had a relevant reason for calling you, it was very likely that you could earn a good conversation because they definitely wrote my name. Like this is not automated, right? We didn't even realize that merge fields were master blasting thousands of emails with tokens that were pulling first names from CRMs, right? Like most consumers didn't even know this was the thing. If your title was used, they were like, oh, this is definitely a handwritten email. I should respond. This is a human. They used my title. Like, no way that they didn't. Like, this is how we viewed it, right? But now it's completely different. We need relevance, personalization. We need to know there's a pulse on the other end of that thing before we actually hit respond. So many checkpoints have to exist before a salesperson is even glanced at by a buyer. Even glanced at. And anybody that's seen one of their own C-level executives' inboxes lately will know that it's for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame them at all for ignoring the shit out of that inbox. It's a nightmare. Yep. And you can't tell who wrote this for me and what robot sent me the rest. You can't tell. It's very difficult right now. So they avoid it. And I say this all the time. Probably been saying it for years. It's true still 10 years later. And this is the only thing about sellers that is still true. If every decision maker took every call from every seller and responded to every email that every seller sent them, no actual leading would ever get done. So what's changed in 10 years? I think sellers have learned, top sellers specifically, have learned that the reason that they're a top seller is because they're a unique seller. They don't have necessarily a solid set in stone script that they use. It's pragmatism that they use. I've said for a while now that pragmatism is the religion of sales, the thing that works. Top sellers, this is John Barrow's in my brain, and he yells in my brain all the time, right? But like, there's two kinds of sellers that are out there that are worth noting for leaders. Some sellers have very methodical, very tactical ways that they can document and write out, and it becomes process, and that's amazing. But there are other sellers out there that are top performers, and if you ask them what makes them great, they have no idea. So you have to decide which one you want and which one is more valuable. And in most instances, they're both very valuable in lots of ways. And that's the world we live in. So what's changed for salespeople? Full cycle sales reps that know how to do prospecting and closing are the winning combination in the modern age, period, the end, the most valuable, employable seller in the game. And it used to not be that way. If you had any kind of experience at all talking to strangers, you could be an SDR tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But right now, if you're an SDR, it's because you're damn good at it.
It's so true, man. Like God, you hit a lot of them that I want to be like dig deeper on that. Like, so first you said, what was it? That pragmatism.
Pragmatism is the religion of sales. Top sellers find the thing that works well for them and they really zero in on it. I just had a call with, we just had a show today with Harry Sims, and he talked about fishing in puddles instead of in the ocean. Right? If you have a very specific persona or a type, an archetype, right? Personas, archetypes, these are all like baskets or buckets that we place other individuals in, right? So you can fish in the pond and you're much more likely to catch that fish than you are throwing a hook out into the massive ocean, praying that a big one happens to swim by. The pond is much smaller. You've narrowed the scope quite a bit. And the best sellers do this really well using AI and many other functions.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, right? You also had another one, and it's almost like the transition or the evolution of like, show me, you know me, which to your point was like, ooh, they knew my title or they know what school I went to. Like that used to be cool, where now I'm just like, all right, good job. Like AI scraped it well. Like,
that's right. I think there's a place for, I went to the same school as you, but it's on the call. It's not in the emails. It's not in the messages. I tell people that all the time. We're trying to sell in the message, and we should be selling in the meetings. The message is what earns us the meetings, and that's where the selling happens.
All right, we're about to take a hard turn on this conversation, man. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's one of the things that drives me absolutely nuts with this, like, oh, cold calling is dead or this doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, first off, it's because we're all treating each of these as though they're mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And as though that as one is a silver bullet over the other, which is not true in any way, shape, or form. I agree with you completely. And I always ask my reps this. I'm like, what's your goal? When you send that email, what's your goal? Because if email number one is to get a meeting, you're not getting a meeting. Like, dude, I don't know you, right? But if step number one is like you send me a LinkedIn request, and then step number two is you went and engaged with some of my content, and then step number three was you sent me an email that showed you that you understand me. I don't care if you know me. I care now, do you actually understand me? There's a higher likelihood that I'm probably going to give you a response, or I might actually book a meeting with you.
So I agree with you, but here's my caveat. And it depends on the personality type, because some leaders quite literally just ignore things. But some leaders really like answering emails. They don't mind. So you got to know that there's a chance you're going to get an email back after you blast out that automated email that's templated as hell. And they're going to say something like I say to people, and that is, what is it you think we do here? Do you know that I've responded to countless templated emails that are completely irrelevant to us and been like, what is it you think we do here? That's my canned response. And then I put it in my bad messaging folder. No one has ever responded to me, Heath. Not once. Not once. And that is just a big sign of how expectations, buyer-seller relationships have all shifted in this direction of more. And that maybe that ties very closely to that generational gap that we were discussing once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what forces do you think are driving that biggest change? When I say forces, is it the buyer force, the behavior, the leadership, expectations, tech? Like, just curious to get your perspective.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of driving forces at work here. And I think that if you look at where we want to point the blame, maybe blame is the wrong word. Maybe we should say, let's look at who the culprits are. There's probably a few culprits. I don't know if you've seen The Usual Suspects, but I'm going
to add one in there. I would say let's call them the catalyst.
Okay.
Because I believe the culprit is actually the rep. The culprit is still us. We are.
I think we have the most that we can affect, but I don't know that we're the only culprit.
Okay.
Right. So first of all, let's start with us, right? The sellers. We are the culprit because we believe that these solutions and tools have been invented to help us do the job. No. They are here to assist us in doing the job we're supposed to do, but they're not going to do the job for us. And that's the miscommunication that I think we get put in front of us when people hand us these tools. Hey, I made this thing for you and it's going to X, Y, and Z. So use it for that moving forward. Okay. So it spits something out generative, and our immediate thought is, well, that's perfect because this leader told me it would be. So I'm going to copy and paste it. Well, one, you're being extremely lazy. Culprit number one, right? Number two, anything that's copied and pasted is probably going to have a few words in it at the very least that land that email in spam 30% of the time. And we know this is a common number that gets thrown around quite a bit. Our data supports this. If you use a word like free or discount or high, these words sometimes get flagged and they end up going into spam. This is a major problem. So culprit number one is us because we believe that these tools are going to do this for us. This is not true. Forgive me. Right? The second culprit is leadership. They're constantly putting the pressure down on frontline culprits, saying more. I want more calls. I want more emails. I want more meetings. I remember a time when getting 7 meetings in a month was quota for an SDR. I remember a time. Nowadays, when you ask people on our show, put the number of meetings that your new meetings quota in the chat. It's 15, it's 20. Where did this expectation come from? Why? It's because we've all agreed that it's become exponentially harder to get meetings, but the numbers have gone consistently up. We move the goalpost forward for our sellers, and then we hold them accountable for not hitting the number. This is unfair. They wonder why the average tenure of a sales rep is 18 months or less. You can't constantly be putting pressure down, saying more, giving them tools to automate and make AI monsters out of everything, and then yell at them when what you've told them to do doesn't work. Stop this madness. You're driving us all crazy. It's like getting handed a script and being told to make 200 calls and say this exact thing. So you do it, and then they go, well, how come you didn't schedule any meetings?
This goes back to the rep, right? The process rep, or the ones that can figure it out.
Because the other culprit is not in our control. The leadership can control themselves, and the salesperson can make a change to their culture, the way they approach sales. We don't have a lot of control over the tools, and they go to market the way they need to go to market. And pragmatism is the faith of sales. We know this. Mm-hmm. So we can't yell at the tool people for realizing that if I pitch it this way, salespeople love it.
Yep. I agree with that. Like, what changes? Right? Like, what gives? Because I'll give you a perfect example. Like, my biggest fear, I think when AI is used the right way, it will augment the rep. Right? And I think
when you say augment, do you also mean enhance?
When I say augment, so let's think about AI when done the right way is the co-pilot that actually allows your reps to be the pilot. Plain and simple. Right? Yeah. And my fear is when I think about augmentation is I also think around efficiency. And so now I'm like, well, wait, are we just about to start squeezing more juice that we're like is quota to OTE going to go from 5-6x to 10x?
You know, it very well might be. That's the case. But then here's what I see happening. And this is the way it goes every quarter. If you watch the trend inside any organization you work with, there's always this one initiative that they are hard on from the top down. Every quarter. Here's what the focus is. This is what it is. Right here, we have to do this. At the end of that quarter, they look at everything and they go, damn, was this the thing? No, this wasn't the thing. Okay, we need to give birth to something new this quarter. What are we going to tell everybody they have to do? All right, this is the new thing, everybody, right? And then suddenly there's an all hands on everybody's calendar in Q3, and we're all reviewing the company's pipe at this point, right? And now we're all in this hurry up and sell motion. And this creates so much friction and so much ethical jellyfish in salespeople because they start making promises that they normally would not promise. They start selling the roadmap instead of selling what exists. They start doubling down on pressure, and that causes buyers to run away because they feel that neediness, that desperation. And this ruins deals. So who's the culprit? It's all impacting us at once. And what's the best thing to do? My opinion remains the same. Your authentic seller self is your best asset. I often reference Selling from the Heart by my friend Larry Levine, probably one of the most impactful sales books I read early on in my career. This book is all about how being your authentic self is the way that people would appreciate being sold to in the first place. So take that script, but don't sound scripted, right? Take that template, but make it your own. Mm-hmm. Use that voice note template that you have, but say something about them in there. Add that human touch. John Barrows, my friend John, is very known for saying human as the last mile. And I think that is very much where we are right now for today. But tomorrow looks completely different.
It's true, man, because it's changing so fast too.
Yeah.
I think it's almost, I want this like process oriented leadership to like come back, right? Because we have become very, very results oriented leadership.
And I heard a quote you'll appreciate. Yeah. The AI solution that you're using right now is the worst AI solution that you will use for the rest of your life. That's crazy to think.
It really is, right? I was actually thinking about, that's what it was. My family reunion this last week in Kentucky. One of my cousins, her boyfriend just graduated college and marketing degree, and he's trying to decide what he wants to do. And we're having a conversation. I'm like, learn SQL, right? Because he's like data plus marketing. I'm like, learn SQL. And then I stopped myself dead in the tracks. We were hiking and I go, actually, don't learn SQL. I was like, AI will be able to do it for you by the time like you would invest the time to actually learn it. So I'm like, find the right AI tools to use to do it for you.
You know that it's interesting you said that. You took a step back there. I don't know. I'm caught. I feel like knowing the foundations of things is very important. Agreed. As a kid that was born in 81, when I came of age, I watched technology go from kind of a blip on the screen and something everybody thought was amazing to becoming a staple in business and life as a day-to-day routine tool that we use every day. And, you know, for a lot of us, like I'm very non-directional. I don't have a very good sense of direction. Google Maps is my favorite thing on the planet when I drive, you know. I think most of us are that way at this point. Our children, our Generation Zs, are the first to go through middle school and high school with smart technology. If you think about what that does for their ability to be resourceful, they're very good at Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, and so forth. But they don't realize that that phone in their pocket does way more than that. Not yet, but they will eventually. Our kids don't know about ChatGPT right now. When you talk to blue collar guys that are, you know, putting in plumbing and building homes, they could care less about ChatGPT right now. There are industries completely untouched, but we live in a SaaS bubble, right? We're living in the tech world. Something that was said by my friend Tom Slocum recently that I thought was very interesting is that most sales techniques that we get, template or not, are coming with a SaaS background. Well, that's wonderful if you're SaaS. But AI is impacting a lot of industries right now, not just SaaS. And the best solutions are out there trying to broaden their horizons by finding other ponds and puddles to fish in.
I love that pond and puddle.
Yeah, that's Harry Sims, man. He's so smart.
The guy, he's an OG. Yeah. So I want to pull back to the rep for a little bit, right? Because we did a nice deep dive around like the overall environment. So go to market today, though, is not just about sales, right? I truly believe that you can be the best seller, but if you don't learn these other pieces of the pie, it's going to be very hard for you in the future. And so what, from your take, like what are some of the new skills that sellers need to invest in and develop today that probably wasn't even on the radar 5 years ago?
So this one is, I hate to circle back to AI so soon, but this one is one that I didn't think was very useful until recently. And ever since I started to really dive into it, after a few experts came on the show and talked about it, I really got into it. Prompts and iteration are like two of the most odd skills that you could develop that could help you be successful at almost anything. Because as you learn to develop a strong, specific prompt initially, and then iterate and refresh it down to being exactly what you need, the ability to learn something from a large language, I think it's an LM, right? A large piece of data, like it's instant, it's seconds instead of hours. Yep. So like that's one skill. Here's another one that I think sellers on the front line struggle with a lot. They have to know the difference between task management and time management. And they have to know how these two things play together so that they can be the most successful. Let me give you some good examples. I use a product called Asana. Asana is a task management system for people that don't know what that is. Now, anyone at our organization can assign me a task in Asana. But I look every day in Asana at what's coming through the week, and I proactively block hours on my calendar that are titled Asana. Now that time is 100% allocated to the task at hand, finishing my tasks in Asana. And I can look at those tasks and I know I have 4 of those for that show and it takes me an hour to do those 4 tasks. So I need an hour and that's going to get rid of those 4 tasks. I'll have 2 left and I can do those in the afternoon and I'll need 30 minutes to do those tasks. So I'm an hour and a half blocked off on my calendar, 1 hour in the morning, another in the afternoon. And by the end of the day, all of my Asana tasks completed. Mm-hmm. And in the process, I'm doing all these other things. I'm prospecting. I'm hosting a show that day. I'm doing a LinkedIn session with School of SDR out of India. There's 1,000 other things that I'm doing, but I also get that done. And that's because I manage my time and my tasks effectively. Color coding your calendar helps. That's definitely something that you can look at. For example, if you want to make every revenue generating activity green, a glance at your calendar on a Monday and not seeing enough green is going to let you know where you need to put your time.
Yep. Man, I just rolled out, I call it 4-3-2-1. And it's basically, it's kind of a time management plus expectations. And so what it is for my sales team is my commitment is that you will at minimum have 4 hours every day to prospect. Right. That's a big
4 hours. I think 4 hours is not enough.
So I give them 6 hours. Basically, what I've committed to them is there's 2 1-hour time blocks that I ask to be like, hey, any internal meeting or any one-on-one is in these 2 time blocks. It's between 10 and 11 a.m. and 1 and 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I'm like, you got 6 hours of the day. I'm not going to take up your time. What I am going to expect, though, is from 4 hours of prospecting, you should be able to book 3 meetings. You should be able to run 2 demos, and you should be able to progress at least 1 deal forward. There's my 4-3-2-1.
Now, I like 4-3-2-1. I just want to clear something up. You're expecting 3 meetings a day if there's 4 hours a day in prospecting. Is that right?
3 meetings booked.
3 meetings booked a day. We're back to that number 15 in a week, which if you look at their monthly quota, that is, correct me if I'm wrong, 60 booked meetings in a month.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. How many people actually hit that quota?
So on the booked meetings, not as much. So that's not the quota, right? The quota at the end of the day is still bookings. And so for me, it's giving you what I call the micro commitments that get you to the actual outcome.
I see.
What can I control? I can't control the outcome of a deal. I really can't, right? Like I can't control your decision making, James. But what I can control is like what I actually put in every single day. And so for me, it's like, hey, what can we control? We can control the people we talk to, and we can control the meetings that we try to schedule. And we can control that when those meetings, when they actually show up, that we hold good meetings. So for me, like, I don't look at it on a daily basis of like, did you book 3 meetings? Yes or no, pass or fail. What I do is I make sure, one, am I giving you the time commitment? And then I look at the results. Then we'll work together, be like, hey, did you hit results? Yes or no? If you didn't, let's look at the effort. Was the effort there? If it was, what's the knowledge or skill gap? that we
Yeah.
need to address on there.
That's
So
fair. That's a good way to like narrow it down to where they're struggling. And I think that lends itself to a great one-on-one, which have also changed quite a bit.
Exactly. And so for me, this is not about micromanaging. It's more about something that just sticks in your head. Like every rep in my org now, when they walk in the day, it's 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, what's your game plan today? Right? 4, 3, 2, 1. Like, I want to make sure I'm prospecting, try to get 3 meetings booked, try to run 2 demos, try to progress 1 deal forward.
You know, that's a really simple mentality too, to wake up with and come in ready to rock on. I wonder though, how much of it's cold call and how much of it's email? I'm just curious.
I don't do specific like cold call blitzes or sprints. Like for me, it's more around managing your sequences.
Oh, okay.
So that's where this all comes down to the coaching side, right? Because what I don't want you to do is load up 400 prospects in a sequence.
Yeah.
Because when you have 400 calls due the next day, it ain't happening.
Toast. Yeah. No, the manual steps in sequences are what bogs me down. And I learned so many valuable lessons by overloading it and then you end up like bulk moving dates for tasks. And then they just don't get done.
They don't
just
get
keep
done.
Getting moved.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm very guilty. So I know this problem quite well. I will say that I am guilty of also grouping my tasks together so that I can, if I know that I'm going to hit my calls, I will bank that and be like, all right, start 15 tasks and they're all call tasks. So then I'm hammering the calls, voicemail. Right. But I like where you're going with that. The 4, 3, 2, 1 is very attractive. We should have you on the show so you can talk about it.
It's the same way though, right? No, but like with bulking it, because that's the other thing I see where it happens is, let's say you do block out those 4 hours to just purely prospect.
Yeah.
If 1 hour is blocked out for cold calling, and if I am cold calling, updating my CRM, and sending out a meeting because I possibly got a meeting with you, I actually just ate up probably 30 minutes doing those 3 things for that one phone call. And so I'm the same exact way. I'm like, if you have an hour blocked out for cold calling, that is an hour of cold calling. Do not update your CRM. Do not update anything. Take notes from the outcome of the call. Go to the next one. Take notes. Go to the next one. Then allocate 15 minutes at the end of that power hour. And like, that's an admin 15 minutes where you can get it done.
And you can use AI to do that admin work and also use AI to take those notes on those calls. We could talk about those solutions, but maybe we should move on.
So, no, it's a good one though, right? Let's talk about AI fitting into like the seller's toolbox.
Oh man. Right? The amount of tools is definitely unbelievable right now.
Yeah. And it's not optional anymore. So you're talking about like what that superstar looks like today. It's not like, oh, I use AI, so I'm an outlier. It's like, no, this is becoming like the foundation.
Yeah.
And so like, how should sellers think about AI, not as a threat, but more as a teammate?
All right. So I'll tell you how I have palled up with AI, so to speak, so that I use it for my advantage. What I needed was more time to do 2 things: more time to sell sponsorships for the show and more time to do sessions with groups, teams, right? That's my thing. I give away my time to teams and provide them with resources. Best job in the world. Okay. So it's an amazing experience to be able to do these 2 things, but I also have to write the talk tracks and the briefs for the show. Well, I have a very specific way that I write. So I use Agent AI to help write the briefs for me and the talk tracks for the show. And it spares me about 2 hours for every show that I am a part of in prep time. That time is pumped right back into more sales time.
Yep.
Right. And more session time. That gives me 2 hours to work with to schedule a 30-minute session with a team and another hour and a half power hour for doing some cold calls or reaching out to folks on LinkedIn that have responded to me that I really struggle to keep up with getting back, right? Like that type of thing is what's in my tool bag. On the other side of the fence, I have ChatGPT that is always at the ready, so that if and when somebody reaches out to me, I can run over there and say, tell me the top 3 reasons that X company would be a great sponsor of the Sell Better Daily Sales Show. And then it goes and it spits out all these great reasons. Recently, I built another agent that I can throw the URL of any company I want in there, and it will spit out back to me a grade. And I've taught that agent what we do. So it lines up whether or not it's a good fit for us, and it gives me an A, B, C, D, F. And I only go after A's and B's because I have the highest likelihood of closing those. If it's a C or lower, I go into my CRM and I list it as not a prospect so that none of our other sellers go after them.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them why, of course. Right. But maybe they look at it. Maybe they don't. But in the end, I feel like what you've seen there is how AI fits in all my pockets to help me get more time selling and help me be more effective in where I'm selling and why.
Mm-hmm. I'm the same exact way. If I pull up my Chat GPT right now, so I built bots before this became even big. I remember at my first organization I call her Riri, and that was the research bot, and it was the same exact way. All you had
Makes
to do
total sense, Riri.
was give the URL and then also the LinkedIn URL, and it would do an entire like debrief on it.
That's dope.
I've got one same exact for my podcast. I've got one which is competitive intel. Then we'll go over to my Claude, which is Anthropic. I've got, one is a business case, which I've actually trained the agent to help us build a business case.
That's cool.
One is a sales coach. One is my RevOps agent. And so literally I've trained it to the point to where, because I feel like as a sales leader, we spend way too much time actually analyzing the data and less time actually focusing on, well, what action do we take?
Yeah.
That is where AI has helped me the most, where it's like, I'm going to feed you all the data. You help organize it of like, hey, here's the things we need to pay attention to. And then I can actually take my human brain, which is great at the strategy and the action. It's almost like that 80-20 has reversed, right? Like, the saying where greatness is the evil of good, where it's like, if something is 80% there, that's better than trying to get it to 100% because you'll waste so much time trying to close that 20% of perfectionists.
The way that we say it at Sell Better is that good is done is the enemy of good, or something to that effect.
I like that.
I even think I might be butchering it now, or good is the enemy of great, or something.
I think it's something like
Sorry
that.
For everybody tuning in.
Yeah.
We need like a Proverbs book or something. This is terrible.
But where my mentality has shifted on that, though, is I think AI is actually able to help us get that 80% to where we can actually use our expertise to close that 20%.
I think we're getting deadly close to being able to then turn around and say to AI, well, what would you do? And that's the part that I think companies like Agent AI are taking a step forward and saying, like, I'm done with generative. There's plenty of generative out there, right? Generate this, generate that. Tell me this, tell me that. We've had Google for a long time, right? Not that ChatGPT is anything like Google. It's definitely more advanced, far more advanced. But when you take it a step further and you say, well, how can we make it take action? I mean, we're talking about Ultron here. You know what I'm saying? Like, If you've seen the movies, there ain't no strings on me. John Connor is somewhere looking back at us going, what the fuck?
I love it. Okay, so I'm curious. You used a couple examples. I've used a couple. You've also have had the honor to talk to a lot of amazing guests.
Yeah.
What are some of the most practical use of AI that you've seen that's actually helping reps sell better?
We did a show with Heather Murray, who runs a company called Tech for Non-Techies, or something to that end. And I'll tell you, I never thought prompts were important for me. Like how I prompted AI never occurred to me because, iteration was the thing. So I would just, whittle it down, make it bigger, whittle it down, right? Get more detailed, whittle it down, right? It was like iteration was the thing. But when I hosted her on this show and she went through all these prompt tactics, man, it really opened up my mind to like how specific I can be and how to train this thing to do what I need it to do. And that became very different because it was no longer a Google for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was no longer a generator for me. It was a thinker just like me. And that was different. So I like prompts, and Heather was a great guest. I will tell you that we have Tom Slocum and Tom Alamo on the show very frequently. They are great for tactical takeaways that salespeople on the front lines can start using right away, and it changes their flow. It changes their results because it's something that they're doing that's outside of their norm. Those guys are great, actionable guys. On the ladies' side, I never want to leave out my ladies. Mandy McEwen comes on the show and talks LinkedIn Sales Navigator, the mod girl herself, and I'll tell you, that's always enlightening when we can get her on there. And we have a full circle moment coming up that I'm really excited about. In 2015, 2016, maybe, I got a cold call from Samantha Craig, and she sold me a product called Discover.org, which would later become ZoomInfo. And I bought it because it was very valuable at the time, pumping all these great leads into my system, into Salesforce at the time. And it was amazing. And then she ended up going to work for ZoomInfo for a long, extended amount of time, and now works at SEMrush. And she needed ZoomInfo, so she went and bought it, and there was a buyer-seller relationship, and we're about to show that relationship on the show. That's cool. So it's great to be able to come and see like both ends of the spectrum, right? Like I'm going to have the buyer and the seller of the product on the show at the same time. Yo, man, how was your experience? Hey, Sam, how did you bait this hook? You know, like talk to me about how you sold it internally. Like, what did that look like? You know, so we're going to be able to see how this went, how these two people were able to get this deal over the finish line together as buyer and seller live on the show. Yeah.
Dude, that'll be awesome. That'll be awesome. So I know we're almost at time, so I want to get a good closing for this. So I got two final questions for you. So the first one, what does the seller of 2030 look like? Right? Like if you could, I mean, let's just talk about it, right? Like LinkedIn just had the whole viral of like making your animated figure in a box.
Yeah.
So like if you could design the ideal rep of the future, what traits and tools do they have?
Oh man, when I think about 2030, first of all, it's not too far away. It's only 5 years out, but I'm pretty confident that by then a seller will be full cycle or nothing. I think there will still be sales development reps, but I believe they'll sit at the end of a marketing cycle, not at the beginning of a sales cycle. Right. So that I think that's going to shift big time. I've been expecting that for some time and it hasn't happened yet. I think 2030 is a good date. Let's aim for it. You're going to write it down and hold me accountable for it, aren't you?
I mean, we just actually did that at Mixmax. We just transitioned to a full cycle AE organization.
Okay. See, I feel like that is definitely what will be the salesperson role. I don't think it will be account executive and SDR. I do think there will still be some separation in 2030 between customer success and sales. There has to be, because somebody has to manage land and expand. And you can't expect salespeople to continually push towards a higher quota quarter after quarter, year after year, and also manage their closed accounts. That's just not realistic. Right. So I feel like that will always be there. Or at least for now, until AI becomes the customer success team, I guess, right? Which is totally possible. But that's something that I think 2030, that would ring true for me. I also think that 2030 looks like no offices for salespeople.
I love that.
I don't know why there would be. I think if we learned anything through COVID, it's that having a location is just overhead that you don't need. Yeah. And let's be honest, right? What do we really gain from that? We're all sitting in a room. I remember working in an office 2014 through 2019, and I played a lot of ping pong. I drank a lot of coffee. I messed around with some employees. A lot of time was wasted, you know. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but I like money more than fun. I'll take the money over the fun. I'll go have fun after I make my money. How about that?
Yep.
Right? So like, I think salespeople will dial in and realize that like, you need a high-paying sales position that gives you the lifestyle that you need, and you should not settle for less than what you need. And that's it. So I feel like 2030 looks like salespeople are getting what they want, and it's the lifestyle that they're after. And that's what they should be after anyway.
Yeah, I feel like 2030, to your point, the rebalancing will happen. Meaning at both like the leadership side and the sales side, like maybe we'll find what that new equilibrium looks like, and there can be a good, healthy balance.
I think we'll also be looking at marketing and sales alignment in the rearview mirror by then, which would be nice. 100%. It'd be nice because the conduits that exist for that are there, and it's a long overdue issue that should have been solved many moons ago.
Yeah, and I think the departmental hierarchy versus like the matrix organization has already taken flight. I think if there's companies that are not doing that, they have a rough road ahead of them.
I agree.
I'm curious. So if there was three things that you could give to the audience today of like what sellers should be doing today to make sure they're not obsolete tomorrow, what are those three things?
Okay, three things you can do to make sure you're not obsolete tomorrow. Dive headfirst into AI and how it can be your best friend to help you be the best possible seller. Stage 1. Stage 2, get really good at iteration. Iteration is the thing that's going to get you more and more results from that AI that feeds you the ability to sell. The third one is most definitely the one I alluded to earlier. Time and task management. You have no idea the amount of stress you put yourself through by not managing your time and your tasks. You're overdue for this. You're in a hurry to get this done. It's stressful. And what do? You let go of the deals that are in your pipeline because you're stressed to get things done that have nothing to do with your deals.
Yep.
So get that shit done and manage that time and those tasks more effectively, because it's going to open up your brain to be able to do more sales stuff that actually makes you money.
Dude, James, this has been fire of a conversation. So like for the audience, if you're listening and you feel a little bit called out, it's probably a good thing. It means you should pay attention. This is the time to evolve, right? Like AI is not here to take our jobs. But if you ignore it, I do believe the rep who does actually implement AI will take your job.
That's what we've been saying all along. AI won't replace you, but it will replace sellers that aren't using AI.
Yep. Well, man, as always, like I always close out Mixology, keep learning, keep adapting, and above all, keep it real. James, big thanks to you, man, for joining the show today, dropping so many insights. If this episode hit home, leave a review, hit subscribe, and share it with your team. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right.